Authorities in Australia say it appears the Islamic State inspired the deadly mass shooting targeting a Jewish gathering on Bondi Beach over the weekend. CBS News foreign correspondent Anna Coren joins us now from where a memorial has sprung up near the beach there in Sydney. Anna, good morning to you. Where do things stand right now on the investigation?
Errol, authorities say that the gunman, a 50-year-old father, 24-year-old son, had sworn allegiance to Islamic State. We know that 2 ISIS flags were found in the car. We also know that they had recently travelled to the southern Philippines. Now, this is a hotbed for terrorism. We understand they were involved in some military training over there, but these are of huge concerns, obviously, to the intelligence community that perhaps should have been across all of this. We also know that the 24-year-old gunman back in 2019 had been under investigation due to his links to a local ISIS cell here in Sydney. Well, we caught up with the former Australian Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull earlier today, and he said that these events should have been red flags. Take a listen. Are there holes in Australia's intelligence gathering?
Well, look, I'm sure there are, but, as you know, the terrorist only has to be right once. The security agencies have to be right every time.
Yeah, so real concern, Errol, about what perhaps intelligence agencies have missed on these terror attacks.
And one thing that stood out, Anna, were the bystanders who tried to intervene and tried to themselves put their own lives at risk to save others. What more are we learning about who they were?
Yeah, new details are emerging, and we got access to this dash cam footage today, which is really quite chilling. It shows Boris Gurman. He is a local Bondi resident. He went up to one of the gunmen as he was getting weapons out of the car, and he tried to stop them. There was a tussle. The gunman then seized another weapon. He shot Boris and then his wife. Both their bodies were slumped on the footpath. There was also Ahmed El Ahmed, that courageous man who seized the gun from the 24-year-old gunman. Well, he was visited in hospital today by the Australian Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese. And then, Errol, very early this morning, we had the opportunity to sit down with Shana Gutnick. Now, her father was gunned down at the Hanukkah festival. She is very angry. She believes that the Australian government is to blame for not doing enough to stop the rise of anti-Semitism in this country. She says the government has blood on its hands. Let's take a listen to what she had to say.
If there was one way for him to go on this earth, it would be fighting a terrorist. He went down fighting, protecting the people he loved the most. I don't know how to live in a world without him. I don't know how my children will live without him.
Errol, it was an incredibly powerful interview. Back to you.
Anna, we appreciate you bringing us those perspectives and your round-the-clock coverage of this tragedy. Anna Coren, live for us in Sydney. Now, Australia's Prime Minister Anthony Albanese pledged the country would tighten its gun laws. But you've got to keep in mind, the country already has some of the strictest in the world. We want to break that out for you. And those laws emerged after another tragedy back in 1996. This was a mass shooting in Port Arthur, Tasmania. It killed 35 people. 12 days later, the Australian government passed the National Firearms Agreement, which changed gun laws at the federal and state levels. It banned multiple types of firearms, including semi-automatic rifles. It established a government buyback program for those prohibited weapons, and it also required the registration of all firearms and tightened rules around licensing. Now, in 2003, a Brookings Institute study estimated that the buyback program retrieved 20% of Australia's firearms. The total number of gun deaths, it also dropped from 2.9 per capita in '96 to a tenth of a point in 2022, according to data from the Gun Safety Alliance and the United Nations. In a one-year period between 2023 and 2024, there were just 31 gun-related murders. Now, gun safety advocates and think tanks like the Australia Institute have noted there are some notable gaps, though, in the law's enforcement. The 96 law set a minimum age requirement of 18 for a firearm license, but certain states and territories allow minors to use the weapon starting at age 12 with adult supervision. And a full national firearms register still doesn't exist nearly 3 decades after it was supposed to be created due to all the governmental red tape. Now, gun ownership itself, it's also grown in recent years. Take a look at this. At the time of the ban, there were about 3.2 million privately owned guns. That number is now up to 4 million. But researchers say this is in part due to each license holder owning more guns than the average individual before the National Firearms Agreement. Now, some of the proposed changes to Australia's gun laws include banning the total number of firearms an individual can own and restricting ownership to only Australian citizens. Also adding expiration dates for firearm licenses, so permit holders have to be rechecked more frequently for suitability to own one.